Hub, and we are at the Northeast Trade Show in New Jersey, and we've stopped by the Carliner booth to learn a little bit more about Carliner and Metropolitan Carliner and what all that you guys have at the show and what you're doing with us. Tell me a little bit about Metropolitan Carliner, the history and the history of the company, and kind of your history here with the show.
Well, I guess way back in the late 70s, early 80s, when the cars changed dramatically to unitized cars, there was a need for equipment to fix those kinds of cars. That equipment was really, you know, in Europe. Went to Europe, checked out some equipment, hooked up with the Carliner as the best fix. At the time, I was operating a large body shop. That was the interest. So we put something together, and we became a distributor very early on in the early 80s, and the rest is history.
Wow, so you've been kind of at this game since the first round, I guess, what I would call trauma in our industry. So the early 80s, we were all really scared of unibody. We can't fix this, there's no way, total the car. And we're kind of back there today as we look at high street steels and kind of what's going on. So you've got some insights then on that.
It's deja vu. Like Yogi Berra says, deja vu all over again. Basically, it's the same issue, and that is we don't have enough training. The cars have changed dramatically. The equipment has changed that need to fix them, and there's very few people that know that. That's the real.
I get a lot of questions on is kind of how we're changing how we measure. So kind of we've got a little bit where we've taught shops the importance of the actual printout, but now as the vehicle is changing, we're finding that we're needing a little bit more body opening measurements and upper body measurements. What are you seeing in the field as you go around?
Well, all kinds of measurements. I mean, back in the day, it was the lower body, simple, structural areas. But Carliner's system basically measures everything. Trunk opens, roof opens, under hood. All that's very important. When you had a 10 millimeter gap on a door, you could go 1 millimeter wide, 1 millimeter narrow, it looked perfect. But when you have a 5 millimeter gap that's 1 millimeter narrow, 1 millimeter wide, it really shows.
Yeah.
And the factory gets those types of fits because they stamp the whole side of the car with all the openings one piece. When you repair it, you're putting it all in there piece by piece, and it's a struggle for the repairer to duplicate that same type finish and be competitive.
Right.
And everything, you can always do a perfect job if you have all the time in the world, but you have to be competitive in this market. You have to get the job, do it perfectly, but do it in a reasonable time.
Now, do you find that with the changes in the steel that the vehicles crash differently in terms of the damage travels differently? So we're looking for damage maybe now in places we never were looking before, post-accident?
Absolutely. You get a heavy repair in the front of the car, and people will be concentrating with the damage in the front of the car, measuring it from the car and the rest of it. But that transfers, and you'll see it in the insurance videos and things you see on the internet, and crashes, and you'll see how that damage travels right through the roof rails, back down to the rear of the vehicle. And the front damage will show the back of the vehicle being way out of spec. And it's not a big thing, but it has to be part of the repair. So you really measure from front to back to fully analyze what kind of a repair you're going to do and how you're going to do the set, what you're going to hold with evil and what you're going to do with cold to restore that vehicle back to the factory specifications.
Now with Carliner, it's pretty easy once I've got the vehicle set up and I've gone through my anchoring plan, which is what I would do even if I'm pulling the front or the rear. It's pretty easy for a technician simply and quickly to get measurements on the opposite end of the damage with your system.
Oh, yeah.
So there's not a lot of target hanging or a lot of work. You basically you get your measurements and you know how your rear is, and then go concentrate on the front.
Right, exactly. It's gotten a lot simpler, and people that use it every day are very excited about it. That's their number one tool.
Right. I think the easier that we make it on technicians, all technicians want to do a good job, and the easier we can make it that they can quickly do what they need to do, the repairs just get better.
Doing a good job is a given, and everybody likes to do good jobs easier, because nobody wants it. Let me do it the hard way.
Right.
So once they're shown the easier way, the quicker way, and where you can go home at 5 o'clock and not think about that heavy repair while you're eating your dinner.
Right.
That makes it easy, and that's what this is all about, knowing where you're going.
So let's talk a little bit about welding, because it's I think we're learning as we grow in this industry with the changing in the metals. Welding's changing, materials are changing, and we've got a lot of technicians to retrain. But you guys have got some tools that kind of help make it easier on the technician when it comes to welding.
Yeah, the welding is hand in hand with the new metals. The old welding that was done with mild steel was very easy. You could be close and be great, okay, with the welding. The right parameters. You could check thickness. There's all kinds of things you could do to be pretty good. With these new high-strength steels, it's very, very difficult. And Carline has come up with their CTR 12,000, which is a totally automatic system, where you will pull the trigger, it'll measure the thickness of the metal, not that you have to get with a micrometer. It'll also test the resistance of that metal, because we may have one piece of mild steel, two pieces of high-strength steel, and maybe adhesive in there too. So what are the parameters do I set that to get the same result as a factory weld? It will test the resistance of what you're trying to weld. With this, the thickness and the resistance, set those parameters automatically, and you just pull the trigger.
Wow.
Now, you know, with all that scariness of the new metals and adhesives and by doing it right and all these things.
Right. It's a wet bond, it's a dry bond.
It's very, very difficult to put that on a technician and say he's just as good as the factory. Because all resistance welds, as far as I'm concerned, look the same. They all look good.
Yeah.
But do they have the same strength? So looking at a resistance weld, you can't tell. It's like, this paint looks really good, but if it had no primer on it, it would deteriorate and come apart. But still looks good. Resistance welds, the same thing. They look good, or are they quality? Are they going to be the same strength that the factory says is required? So with Carline's CTR 12,000, they've really stepped up and given the technician an easy way to do an excellent repair.
What do y'all have got planned for the show? What's going to be going on here during the next 3 or 4 days, and what are you excited to kind of show and demonstrate for everybody?
Well, it's basically the CTR 12,000, which is very, very exciting. It makes everybody's job a lot easier, and it makes them feel good about what they do. And the Evo is still very, very strong. Like I said, the new metals the education on new metals is very slow coming. Okay, it's a shame. And the faster people step up, they're going to be able to do the repairs more economically and more profitably. But like I said, like we started, it's deja vu. Basically, same problems. Types of cars change, equipment has changed, and the education how to ramp up quickly. We have the same thing again. Cars change dramatically with high-strength steel. There's a lack of education, people knowing about how to repair these cars. There's not as much equipment out there that's needed to be address these issues. So it's kind of like 1980 all over again. It's a big cycle. So it's interesting being an old timer to see this happening again. It's amazing.
Well, it is exciting to know that we've made it through it before, and we'll make it through it again with companies like Carline and the equipment that's out there. It's really just a matter of you making the investment in your repair facility and your customers to have what you need. So stay around with us here at the show. We're going to spend the rest of the weekend visiting the booths. We're going to keep checking back in here with Carline. We're going to do some demonstrations on the measuring, on the anchoring systems, and a little bit on welding, so to make sure that you get a chance to see everything that we had here to offer, even if you couldn't join us. And then hopefully we're going to see you here next year. Dave, thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to spending some time. Thanks.
Thank you.